Growing up in the small town of Maplewood, New Jersey, there weren't many kids who understood me. I was the quiet one in class, the girl who always sat in the back, scribbling in her notebook while everyone else talked about parties, boyfriends, and weekend plans. But there was one person who got me completely, one person who made me feel like I wasn't alone in the world. Her name was Chloe Parker. Chloe and I met in first grade, the day my mom dropped me off in that big, intimidating classroom for the first time. I remember standing there, clutching my Barbie lunchbox like it was a lifeline, scanning the room for a friendly face. That's when I saw her, a little girl with curly blonde hair, wearing mismatched socks and a smile way too big for someone who had just lost both her front teeth. She waved at me like we'd been friends forever, and before I knew it, she was pulling me toward the art table, telling me, "We're gonna make the best castle ever." From that day on, we were inseparable. We sat together in class, shared our snacks at lunch, and even invented our own handshake. Everyone knew that if you saw one of us, the other wasn't far behind. We were the kind of best friends people wrote about in yearbooks, besties for life, partners in crime, all of that. It wasn't just the fun stuff that bonded us. Chloe and I went through everything together: scraped knees, bad grades, family fights. Her parents divorced when we were in middle school, and I was the one she called crying in the middle of the night. My dad lost his job when I was 13, and she was the one who sneaked over with a bag of her mom's homemade cookies because she knew we couldn't afford much at the time. She was more than my best friend. She was my sister. We made a promise when we were 14. Sitting on the swings at Maplewood Park, staring up at the stars, we told each other that no matter what happened, we'd always have each other's backs. Through boyfriends, through college, through life, it didn't matter. We were a team. And for a long time, I believed that with my whole heart. High school came, and while most people drifted apart from their childhood friends, Chloe and I stayed close. Sure, we had different friend groups. She was the social butterfly who floated between cliques, and I was the creative one, always in the art room or theater club. But we always made time for each other. Friday nights were ours. No parties, no dates, no excuses. It was during our junior year that everything started to shift, though I didn't notice it right away. We were sitting in the school cafeteria one rainy afternoon, flipping through a flyer for a summer arts program in New York City. It was a huge opportunity: 2 months in the city, learning from professionals, making connections, building your portfolio. I had dreamed of something like that for years. But it was insanely competitive and expensive too. The only way I could go was if I landed one of their few full-ride scholarships. "I'm applying," I told Chloe, my voice shaky but determined. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Yeah, me too," she said casually, taking a bite of her sandwich. That caught me off guard. Chloe wasn't exactly into art. She was more of a photography hobbyist, and her real passion was journalism. Still, I shrugged it off. Maybe she just wanted to try something new. We spent the next few weeks working on our applications together, or at least, I thought we were working together. I'd show her my sketches, ask for feedback, help her edit her short essays. She'd nod and smile, though she never really showed me much of her own work. I didn't think much of it. She was my best friend. Why wouldn't I trust her? The day the acceptance emails were sent out, I was so nervous I could barely breathe. I was sitting in my bedroom, refreshing my inbox every 5 seconds. Then, suddenly, there it was. Congratulations. My heart leapt. I'd gotten the scholarship. I was going to New York. I called Chloe immediately, ready to scream with excitement. She picked up after the third ring, her voice sounding flat. "Yeah, I got in too," she said. No excitement, no laughter, no, "We did it," like I'd imagined. Just flat. I brushed it off, telling myself maybe she was just overwhelmed. But that night, I saw her post on Instagram a perfectly staged photo of her acceptance letter, captioned, "Hard work pays off. Can't wait for this summer in the city." Dozens of comments poured in, congratulating her. I left a "Congrats, bestie" comment, and she liked it without replying. For the first time, something felt off, but I ignored it. We were both going. That was all that mattered, right? Summer came, and New York was everything I dreamed it would be: bustling streets, endless inspiration, the feeling that anything was possible. But it wasn't the experience I'd imagined sharing with Chloe. From the moment we arrived, she was different. She disappeared during lunch breaks, claiming she had meetings with people she'd met in the program. She started dressing differently, talking differently, surrounding herself with the most popular kids in our group. When I tried to hang out with her, she'd act distracted, her eyes scanning the room for someone more important to talk to. I told myself it was just the excitement of the city. People change, right? But one night, everything came crashing down. I walked into the student lounge to find Chloe laughing with a group of people. On the table in front of her was a stack of my sketches, the ones I'd been working on for weeks. She was flipping through them, showing them off like they were hers. My chest tightened. "Those are mine," I said, my voice trembling. She didn't even look guilty. She just smiled that fake smile and said, "Relax. I was just showing them your style for inspiration." But deep down, I knew it wasn't about inspiration. She was passing them off as her own. And the worst part? The others were eating it up. That night, lying in my tiny dorm bed, I stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our friendship in my head. The promise we made on the swings. The late night phone calls. The way I trusted her with everything. And for the first time in my life, I wondered if Chloe Parker had ever truly been the friend I thought she was. After that night in the student lounge, I couldn't stop seeing Chloe differently. It was like once the glass had a crack in it, you couldn't unsee it. Every time she smiled, I wondered if there was something calculated behind it, some little performance she was putting on. I told myself not to make a big deal out of it. Maybe she really had just been inspired. Maybe I was overreacting because the city was stressful and I was homesick. But the truth was, something had shifted between us, and no amount of pretending could fix it. The next week, we had a major group critique session. Each student had to present a portfolio of their work so far for feedback from the instructors. It was a big deal, the kind of moment that could make or break your summer here. I'd been working tirelessly on my series of urban sketches, capturing life on the streets of New York with quick, emotional strokes. My style had become kind of my signature, and I was proud of it. When Chloe's turn came, she strutted to the front of the room with a confident smile, holding a sleek black folder. She began flipping through her work, and my stomach dropped. Half the pieces were mine. Not exact copies, but close enough that they might as well have been. She'd mimicked my lines, my shading, even my little habit of signing my initials in the bottom right corner. The difference was, she had signed them with her initials. The instructors nodded approvingly. "You've really developed a distinctive style," one of them said. "Thank you," Chloe replied, shooting me a quick glance, a glance that felt like a challenge. I sat frozen in my seat, my heart pounding in my ears. I wanted to stand up and scream, "That's mine." But I couldn't. My voice felt trapped somewhere in my chest, and all I could do was stare as she soaked up the praise that didn't belong to her. Later that night, I confronted her in our dorm room. "Why are you doing this?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked up from her phone, her expression infuriatingly calm. "Doing what? You know what? You're stealing my work. You're taking credit for things I created." She laughed, actually laughed, like I just told a ridiculous joke. "First of all, calm down. Second, you don't own Sketching the City. It's not like you invented it. And honestly, if you were really confident in your talent, you wouldn't be so threatened." The words stung more than I wanted to admit. I wasn't threatened. I was hurt. But Chloe knew exactly how to twist the knife so it felt like maybe I was being dramatic. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone I trusted for so many years could suddenly feel like a stranger. As the summer went on, Chloe's little acts of betrayal became constant. She'd forget to tell me about networking events, then post pictures of herself with guest speakers I'd been dying to meet. She started telling people that we had come up with certain project ideas, even though they had been entirely mine. And slowly, I realized she wasn't just stealing my art. She was stealing my spotlight. One afternoon, I overheard her talking to one of the instructors in the hallway. "I've been thinking a lot about where I want to go after this program," she said. "Maybe Parsons or Pratt. I mean, after all the progress I've made here, it just feels like the natural next step." The instructor nodded. "You definitely have the drive. And that unique style of yours, it could really take you far." I felt sick. That was my style. My progress. My years of work that she was passing off as her own. It all came to a head during the final showcase, the event where each student displayed their best work from the program for an audience of instructors, guest artists, and even potential college recruiters. It was supposed to be a night of celebration. Instead, it turned into the night Chloe crossed the line I couldn't forgive. We had been assigned separate display tables, but when I arrived early to set mine up, I noticed something wrong immediately. One of my favorite pieces, a large, detailed ink drawing of a rainy night in Times Square, was missing from my portfolio. I searched my folder, my sketchbook, my dorm room. Gone. Panic rose in my chest. That piece had taken me nearly a week to complete. It was the one I was most proud of, the one I thought could really impress people. And then I saw it, on Chloe's table, framed, with her name underneath. For a second, I couldn't move. I just stood there, staring at it, my brain struggling to process the audacity of what I was seeing. She had taken my best piece and claimed it as hers. Not even a copy this time, but the original. My work. My hands had drawn every single line. She noticed me looking and walked over, smiling like nothing was wrong. "Oh, hey. You like it?" I decided to make it my centerpiece. I felt my face burning. "That's mine." She tilted her head innocently. "Is it? Huh. I guess we just have really similar styles." I don't remember exactly what happened next, just a blur of anger, humiliation, and the sound of my own voice shaking as I demanded she take it down. She refused, and before I knew it, the room had gone quiet, all eyes on us as I accused my best friend of theft in front of everyone. Chloe didn't back down. Instead, she turned to the small crowd and said, "She's just upset because I've been more successful here. It's hard when your friend can't handle you doing well." Laughter rippled through the group. Not everyone laughed, but enough did to make me feel like I was standing there naked, my dignity stripped away. I left the showcase early that night, my stomach in knots. On the walk back to the dorm, the city lights blurred through my tears. I thought about all the nights we'd stayed up talking about our dreams, the promises we'd made to protect each other, the way I defended her 100 times when other people said she was too competitive or too fake. And now she had proven them right. Something inside me hardened that night. I realized that the girl I thought I knew, the girl I'd loved like a sister, was gone. Or maybe she'd never been real to begin with. The night of the showcase was the first time I ever felt truly alone in New York. When I got back to my dorm, the room was empty. Chloe was probably still at the event, soaking up the praise for work that wasn't even hers. I sat on my bed, still in my dress from the showcase, staring at my empty portfolio case. My Times Square drawing was still with her. My work. My art. My proof that I had something worth showing. For hours, I replayed the confrontation in my head, hearing her smug voice, the way people looked at me like I was jealous instead of justified. At first, all I felt was hurt. Then, somewhere between midnight and sunrise, the hurt started to twist into something else. Resolve. If Chloe thought she could erase me, she was wrong. The next day, I didn't talk to her. I didn't even look at her during breakfast. Instead, I focused on what I still had, the rest of my portfolio, my sketchbook, and my ability to create something new. The final week of the program was supposed to be about winding down, attending a few last workshops, saying goodbye. For me, it became a mission. Every morning, I went out into the city before sunrise with my sketchbook, hunting for moments no one else was seeing. A man feeding pigeons on a quiet street corner, a cab driver asleep in his seat, a mother braiding her daughter's hair on a stoop. These were the details Chloe couldn't fake, because she wasn't there to witness them. By the end of the week, I had filled the entire book. My fingers ached from drawing, my eyes burned from lack of sleep, but I didn't care. I was building something I could control. Something that was undeniably mine. Meanwhile, Chloe acted like nothing had happened. She'd stroll into the dorm late at night, humming, scrolling through her phone, sometimes glancing at me like she was waiting for me to snap. But I didn't. The truth was, I didn't want another screaming match. I didn't want to waste my energy on her anymore. I wanted to save it for the right moment, the moment I could make sure everyone saw the truth. That moment came sooner than I thought. On the last day of the program, there was an awards ceremony, small scholarships, recommendations, and portfolio features handed out to the students the instructors thought had the most potential. It wasn't a huge deal, but it was still the kind of recognition that could open doors. Sure enough, when they announced the Outstanding Portfolio Award, Chloe's name was called. She walked up to the stage with a wide grin, her curls bouncing under the lights, holding the certificate like she'd just been handed the key to the city. As the applause faded, one of the instructors invited her to say a few words. "I just want to thank everyone who supported me this summer," she began. "And to my best friend," she gestured toward me, "thanks for inspiring me in so many ways." My stomach turned. The way she said it made it sound like she was the artist, and I was just her little muse tagging along. People smiled at me like I should be proud, but all I felt was anger. That night, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I remembered something from the first week of the program, an optional online submission where students could upload their process videos and rough drafts for an emerging artist feature the program published every fall. Most people hadn't bothered, but I had. Every sketch, every video of me drawing in the park, every photo of my work before it was polished. And most importantly, I had the original time-stamped photos of my Times Square piece from the day I finished it. If I sent those files, with a short explanation, the program wouldn't be able to ignore it. And they wouldn't be able to pretend Chloe had done the work she claimed. I didn't sleep that night. I scanned every page, uploaded every video, wrote a calm, factual statement about what happened. I didn't use insults. I didn't rant. I just told the truth, with proof. I hit send at 3:47 a.m. The next morning, the email went out to all program participants. A short, formal statement from the administration. "It has come to our attention that one of the submitted works for the final showcase was created by another student. The piece has been removed from public display, and all credits have been updated to reflect the original artist. We take integrity seriously and expect all participants to uphold the highest standards of honesty." They didn't mention names, but they didn't have to. Everyone knew. When I walked into breakfast, every head turned toward me, then toward Chloe. She sat stiffly at the table, her face pale, her phone buzzing nonstop. She didn't look at me once. Part of me thought I'd feel triumphant in that moment, but I didn't. What I felt was complicated. There was satisfaction, sure, in knowing the truth was out there. But there was also a hollow ache in my chest, the kind you get when you realize you can't go back to the way things were, no matter how much you wish you could. Chloe didn't speak to me for the rest of the week. We packed our bags in silence, rode the train home without a word. When I stepped off at Maplewood Station, my mom was waiting with open arms. And for the first time all summer, I let myself cry. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Not really. Because small towns have long memories. And Chloe Parker had a way of rewriting stories to make herself the hero. If I didn't protect mine, she'd find a way to twist it all over again. And I wasn't about to let that happen. I thought leaving New York would put some distance between me and Chloe's betrayal. But Maplewood was smaller than the campus coffee shop, and bad news traveled faster than the morning train. The first week back, I tried to keep my head down. I spent most of my time unpacking, sketching in my room, and pretending everything was normal. But then the whisper started. It began at the grocery store. I was picking up milk for my mom when I overheard two women near the produce section. "You hear about Chloe and that art program?" "Yeah." She said her friend accused her of stealing just because she was jealous. I froze in the middle of the aisle. It was exactly what I'd feared. Chloe had already rewritten the story. And in her version, I wasn't the victim. I was the petty, insecure friend trying to drag her down. By the second week, it wasn't just whispers. It was posts. Her Instagram was full of carefully curated captions. "Haters gonna hate. Real friends lift each other up. And funny how some people can't stand to see you succeed." Each post had dozens of likes from kids we'd grown up with, people who had sat next to me in class for years, who had been to my birthday parties, who now seemed more than happy to believe I was the villain. It shouldn't have hurt as much as it did, but it did. A lot. School started up again in September, and that's when things got worse. Chloe and I were both seniors now, which meant we shared half our classes. I walked into first period English on the first day, and the conversation stopped mid-sentence. I started toward me, then away. I sat down in the back, my skin burning, wishing I could disappear. Halfway through class, someone slipped a folded piece of paper onto my desk. I opened it and felt my stomach drop. "How's it feel to ride Chloe's coattails?" The words weren't signed, but I didn't need a name. The handwriting was familiar. By October, Chloe wasn't even subtle anymore. She'd walk past me in the hallway, laughing with her friends loud enough for me to hear. "Careful, don't let her near your homework. She might claim it's hers." Every time she did it, I felt my chest tighten. Part of me wanted to yell back, to fight fire with fire. But another part of me, the bigger part, didn't want to stoop to her level. Still, I couldn't ignore what was happening. She wasn't just tarnishing my reputation. She was actively dismantling it. And in a town like ours, reputation was everything. It all came to a head at the Maplewood Fall Festival, the kind of event where everyone showed up, from toddlers in pumpkin costumes to old couples holding hands. There was a small art booth where local students could display their work. I hadn't planned on submitting anything this year, but my art teacher, Mrs. Jacobs, convinced me. "You can't let her take this from you," she said, squeezing my shoulder. "Show them what you can do." So, I did. I spent the week before the festival working on a new piece, a massive, intricate ink and watercolor of the Maplewood train station at sunset. It was detailed down to the cracks in the pavement, the faint reflection of the sky in the windows. The morning of the festival, I set it up on the easel in my assigned spot. People stopped to look, tilting their heads, asking questions. I felt proud again, not of proving anything to Chloe, but of proving something to myself. That pride lasted until I saw her. Chloe strolled into the art booth wearing a bright red coat and that same smug smile she'd worn in New York. She was surrounded by her friends, all laughing at something she'd just said. When she spotted me, she walked straight over, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Wow, you actually showed up. I was worried you'd be too embarrassed." I forced a tight smile. "Enjoy the festival, Chloe." But she didn't leave. She circled my easel, pretending to admire the painting. "Not bad," she said. "It's almost like you're getting better." Her friends giggled. I kept my eyes forward, my hands clenched into fists. Later that afternoon, I stepped away from my booth to grab a drink. When I came back, my heart stopped. Someone had splattered water across my painting. The colors were bleeding, the ink running down the paper in black and blue streaks. I stood there frozen, my throat tight, while Chloe's group passed by in the distance. She glanced back at me and smiled, a small, knowing smile, before disappearing into the crowd. That night, as I sat in my room staring at the ruined painting, something inside me snapped. I had spent months letting her define the narrative, letting her control what people believed about me. I had been quiet. I had been patient. I had hoped that the truth would speak for itself. But now I realized, the truth doesn't speak for itself. You have to speak it. loudly, and I was done being quiet. The Monday after the fall festival, I walked into school with my sketchbook tucked under my arm, not because I needed it for class, but because it was going to be my weapon. I had spent all weekend planning. Every piece of evidence from New York, the time-stamped photos, the videos of me sketching, the original drafts, was now neatly printed and slipped into clear plastic sleeves. I'd also written out the entire story, not as a rant, but as a timeline. Dates, facts, proof. No one would be able to twist it. I wasn't going to pass it out randomly, though. I had something bigger in mind. Every Monday morning, our school had an assembly in the gym. It was usually boring, announcements, pep talks, the occasional guest speaker. But that morning, I waited until halfway through, when our principal opened the floor for student updates. I raised my hand. My voice didn't shake when I said, "I have something I'd like to share." When he nodded, I walked to the center of the gym, my sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. Hundreds of faces turned toward me. My heart pounded, but I kept my chin up. I started simply. Some of you know that I went to an art program in New York this summer. Some of you have heard a different version of what happened there. I glanced toward the bleachers, where Chloe sat with her friends. She was already smirking, as if she thought I was about to embarrass myself again. So, I continued, I just want to clear things up. And I brought receipts. I held up the first sheet, a photo of me sketching in Times Square, the same piece Chloe had claimed as hers. Then I held up the next, a scan of the finished drawing, dated 2 weeks before the showcase. I explained how she'd taken the original, displayed it under her name, and accepted an award for it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I just told the story, piece by piece, showing the proof after each point. The gym was silent except for my voice. Even the principal didn't interrupt. When I finished, I looked directly at Chloe. I didn't want it to come to this. But I'm tired of being quiet while someone else rewrites my story. So if you've been wondering what really happened, now you know. I stepped down from the center of the gym and handed the principal a folder with all the evidence. Then I walked back to my seat without looking at her again. The whispers started immediately. Not the kind that make your skin crawl. These were different. Curious. Shocked. Disbelieving in a way that was aimed at her, not me. By lunch, the mood had shifted entirely. People who hadn't spoken to me in months were coming up to say they were sorry, that they hadn't known the full story. Some offered awkward compliments about my art. I didn't need their apologies, but I accepted them anyway. Chloe, on the other hand, was nowhere to be seen. That evening, I got a text from her. "Chloe, you're so dramatic. You didn't have to humiliate me in front of everyone." I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "Me? You humiliated yourself. I just stopped covering for you." She didn't respond. The rest of the semester felt lighter. She still had her friends, but the constant digs, the public jabs, they stopped. She kept her distance, and I kept mine. I poured my energy into my art portfolio. In the spring, I got my acceptance letter to the Rhode Island School of Design, my dream college. My mom cried when I told her. On the day I posted the news online, my phone buzzed with a like from an unexpected name, Chloe. No comment, no message, just a quiet acknowledgement. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel anger when I saw her name. I felt nothing. People always tell you that betrayal teaches you who your real friends are. I think that's only half true. Betrayal also teaches you who you are. I had spent years believing Chloe and I were a team, that she'd always have my back. But when she didn't, I learned I could stand on my own, and even louder than before. And maybe that was the lesson I needed all along.